In this unit, we will learn how to create imperfect shapes. All the shapes that we created thus far in Illustrator are somehow a bit more stiff and geometric and perfect. Well, especially when it comes to illustration, sometimes the element of imperfection can be very interesting. It makes the illustrations feel a bit more human and perhaps a bit more engaging for the viewer too. So there is a group of tools that allows us to modify all those perfect shapes and create some less stiff objects out of them. Let's have a look. The collection of those tools are under the Width tool that you will find on the left-hand side on your toolbar. I'm gonna click and hold my click and release it over the arrow to get this panel separate on the side. I'm gonna skip the first one for now, and I'm gonna go ahead and show you firstly the Work tool. When you select it, you can see that it works as a little brush. And of course, you firstly need to select on which object you want to apply it to. So I'm gonna go ahead and select the first circle, and I'm gonna select again the Work tool. You can always see the shortcut by hovering over the icon. How it works is just going over the edges of the shape and moving a bit up and down the mouse, left and right, and you see how I'm making it a bit more wobbly. What I can also do is double click on the tool itself and adjust some further options about the tool. So I can adjust how big my brush is going to be. So let's go ahead and make it perhaps 200 pixels by 200. I can also adjust the angle, which in this case is not really relevant since I have a circular brush. And the intensity, which allows you to decide how soft or intense you want your brush to be. So let's leave that at 50%. You can also select the detail option, so the amount of detail that it should keep while using the brush, as well as how much you want to simplify the shape as you're going towards the edges of the shape with your brush. I'm gonna press OK and go ahead and use it again and see how this time it works fairly different because we have a bigger brush. So this is the first tool of the collection. Let's go ahead and select the next shape and explore the Twirl tool. As you can imagine, it allows you to create some little twirls, so the longer that I'm gonna hold down the click, the bigger the twirl is going to be. And again, if I double click here, I can adjust the width and the height, the angle, the intensity, the twirl rate as well in this case, detail, and how much I want to simplify my shape. That's a quite interesting approach in order to modify existing simple shapes. You can already see how these two simple circles turned into something a bit more engaging, a bit more interesting. The next tool is the Pocket tool. It allows you to push the edges of your shape towards the inside of your shape just by clicking at different points on the inside. You can double click on it again and adjust the different details. Most of the tools have similar details to adjust, such as the width, the height, angle, intensity, detail, and simplify, but some of them have additional information that they relate specifically to that tool. The next tool is doing exactly the opposite. It's the Blow tool and does exactly the opposite. So you click anywhere within the shape and it bloats it, so it expands it towards the outside of the shape. Again, double clicking on the tool and be able to adjust any of the parameters. Grabbing the next circle and exploring the next tool, which is the Scallop tool. This one creates this kind of interesting hairy outcome. So whenever you click anywhere within your shape, it makes the edges a bit more interesting, like a little monster, like little hair around it. It can be really interesting combined, for example, with some eyes. And of course, you can on that tool as well adjust the details, and you can adjust as well the complexity, as you can see. The next tool is the Crystallize tool, and it does something similar to the previous one, but this time is pushing the edges of the shape towards the outside to create this kind of hairy, weird, interesting outcome. Let's copy paste those little eyes and perhaps recolor them blue. So these tools allow you to really quickly amend your shapes and create something really interesting out of just simple geometry, which is amended using those brushes. We have the wrinkle tool, which is our last tool. It just makes the edges a bit more wrinkled, a bit more wobbly. Of course, you can adjust the parameters by double clicking on that, and you can adjust the way that the wrinkle options work horizontally and vertically, as well as the complexity and the detail. You can of course also combine those tools, so I can use the wrinkle tool to make it like wobbly around, then perhaps use the warp tool to make it a bit more smooth, or even the scallop tool and make some edges a bit more hairy. So it's always up to you to see how you want to combine those tools in order to create some interesting outcomes. As we saw, all of these tools apply as brushes on existing shapes. There is one tool though that we didn't talk about yet, and it's the width tool. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap into this eye illustration that I created, which is just drawn using the pen tool. The first tool allows you to actually amend the thickness of your lines, of your strokes. So I'm gonna go ahead and select this line here, and I'm gonna select the width tool. It allows me to define how thick or thin the line is going to be on specific positions of the path. So I'm gonna go ahead and click here and drag my click. And you see that I get these handles that they allow me to adjust the thickness of the path. Once you release it, it's gonna apply the transformation. And you don't only need to click on anchor points to adjust it, you can go click anywhere on the path and you will get those handles to make it thinner or thicker till you're quite happy with the result. You can also select it and grab the point and move it farther down, for example. If you're not sure about your transformation, you can still edit it as much as you like till you're satisfied with the final outcome. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply a bit of thickness also on this line. Yeah, that feels a bit better, a bit more engaging, like having some variation on this thickness of the line. And still, of course, you can, with your white arrow, amend the anchor points themselves, so move them a bit up or down correspondingly in order to adjust your path. And this is a really comfy tool, especially when you're doing illustrations that involve quite a lot of strokes. I love the fact that it gives you perfect control on your strokes, and you don't necessarily need to use a specific brush or something. You can just create the exact thickness that you like. I'm gonna go ahead and clone those two using the Alt key and mirror them using the reflection tool. How it works is just click on the reflection tool, click and drag your click up, and it's gonna reflect them. So I don't really need to adjust again the lines, I can just clone them in order to create my outcome. So these are really handy tools that allow you to turn simple shapes into some lovely graphics. In the next unit, we are going to explore the blending modes, textures, and effects.